A 15-year-old black teenager, Kevin Williams, faced exactly that when he stepped into Arsenal Premium, the most exclusive gun shop in town. An hour later, they were frozen in their tracks. "Kid, are you lost? The video game store is across the street." The salesman didn't even look up from his computer when Kevin walked through the door. Kevin, only 15 years old, never imagined a simple visit to a store would become the catalyst for a turnaround that would leave the entire town speechless. Dressed in jeans and a plain t-shirt, he looked out of place among display cases filled with collectors' weapons and military equipment that cost more than cars. "Actually, I'm looking for information on carry permits," Kevin replied, his voice calm, contrasting his youthful appearance. The salesman's laughter echoed through the store, drawing the attention of other employees. "Permits, kid? You can't even drive yet. Go play outside before I call the police for trespassing." The manager, Rick Patterson, a burly 52-year-old who built his reputation catering to businessmen, politicians, and collectors, approached with a condescending smile. "What's going on here?" Patterson eyed Kevin up and down, as if assessing a threat. "Son, this isn't a store for people like you. We have high-value merchandise here." Kevin stood motionless, his eyes calmly scanning the weapons on the walls. There was something about his posture, an unnatural serenity for his age, that should have been a warning. But Patterson and his employees were too busy feeding their prejudices. "I understand perfectly well where I am," Kevin replied, his voice respectful. "My father always said knowledge has no age." The mention of his father made Patterson roll his eyes. Sure. And let me guess, your father's a big collector, isn't he? You guys always make up these stories." What Patterson didn't know was that every cruel word, every look of contempt, was being recorded by someone who'd learned true strength lies in strategic patience. A regular customer, a local lawyer named Morrison, laughed loudly. "Rick, you should put a sign on the door, 'Serious people only.' That'd avoid these awkward situations." Kevin nodded politely. "Thanks for the suggestion. I'll make a note of it." The phrase sounded innocent, almost naive. But if anyone had noticed the determined gleam in his eyes, the kind only found in those with a purpose greater than their age suggests, they might have realized these weren't words of defeat, but of someone just beginning a far more complex game. If you've ever felt the bitter taste of being judged by your appearance, you know the best response doesn't always come right away, but when they least expect it. Subscribe to the channel to find out how a 15-year-old was about to teach a lesson none of those adults would ever forget. "Did you write everything down?" Patterson laughed, shaking his head at the other customers. "Kid, you can't even read those specifications. Go home and play soldier before I lose my patience." Kevin's eyes fixed on a Glock 17 pistol. "That one has a modified tactical sighting system," he said calmly, pointing. "Military version, right?" Silence fell for 3 seconds before Patterson burst out laughing. "Military version? Did you hear that? The kid's been watching too many action movies." Morrison leaned in condescendingly. "Son, guns aren't toys. This is serious stuff for serious people who work, pay taxes, contribute to society." "I understand perfectly," Kevin replied, his calm unnerving some present. "My father always talked about responsibility with firearms." "Your father?" Patterson raised his eyebrows, exchanging glances with Morrison. "What does he do? Mall security?" Muffled chuckles followed. Kevin lowered his head slightly. Not out of shame, but with the same gesture he made as a child beside his father, watching veterans disrespected at ceremonies by people who never understand the weight of service. Colonel James Williams, Kevin's father, had taught him that some battles are won with honor, others with strategic patience. During 23 years of military service, James faced 3 wars, countless classified missions, always returning with the philosophy: "True strength isn't proving you're strong, Kevin. It's knowing when to use that strength." James died 6 months earlier on a humanitarian mission, leaving Kevin and his mother with a modest pension and a house full of medals most could never earn. In his father's desk, Kevin found letters from generals, photos with presidents, documents proving a legacy Patterson could never understand. He worked in security, Kevin said, technically correct, omitting it was international national security. Sure you did, Patterson dismissed. Always the same story. You guys make up important professions to impress people. A new customer, Mr. Thompson, entered, clearly accustomed to respect. Patterson switched to a servile tone. Mr. Thompson, good to see you again. Thompson barely acknowledged him, eyeing Kevin with irritation. Rick, what's this situation? I thought you kept this establishment select. I was just taking care of that, Mr. Thompson. The boy's on his way out. Kevin stood motionless, his eyes moving calmly between the hostile faces. There was something about his quietness that should have alerted them. Actually, Kevin said softly, I still have questions about carry permits for emancipated minors. The statement hit like a bomb. Morrison laughed nervously. Emancipated minor? Kid, you don't look old enough to drive, let alone carry a gun. I'm 15 and legally emancipated 3 months ago. Kevin replied with unnatural calm. I need to understand the legal procedures. Thompson frowned. Emancipated? And your parents agreed to that? My father died in the line of duty. My mother supported the decision. The mention of his father's death caused brief discomfort, but Patterson resumed hostility. Look, kid, I don't know what story you're making up, but this isn't the place for legal games. This is serious business. Kevin nodded respectfully. That's why I'm here. I want to do everything right. Right. Thompson laughed bitterly. The right thing would be for you to be in school, not disturbing business establishments with legal fantasies. What they didn't know was Kevin had spent 6 months studying gun laws, legal procedures, federal regulations, not out of whimsy, but because he inherited his father's sense of justice. In his school folder, assumed to hold only homework, Kevin carried certified emancipation papers, military pension correspondence, and a letter from a 3-star general who knew James personally. Every discriminatory interaction since his father's death, every prejudiced comment, closed door, contemptuous look, was recorded with military precision. I understand you have doubts, Kevin said calmly, adjusting his backpack. Perhaps I should return with proper documentation. Patterson laughed. Documentation? Sure, kid. Come back when you're old enough for these conversations. Kevin nodded and headed for the door, stopping halfway. Mr. Patterson, can I ask a personal question? What? Patterson replied, still smiling condescendingly. Did you ever serve in the armed forces? The question caught Patterson off guard. No, never. Why? Kevin nodded slowly. Just curious. My dad always said you could tell who'd served by how they treated others. The observation sounded innocent, but its quiet certainty made Patterson feel inexplicable discomfort, as if he'd failed a test he didn't know he was taking. Every cruel word, every laugh, every glance was recorded in the memory of someone who knew the real battle happens not at provocation, but in silent preparation for victory. What those men couldn't see behind Kevin's calm eyes was determination forged in a military education and tempered by loss, turning a boy into something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Kevin left Arsenal Premium without haste, his mind 3 steps ahead. In the parking lot, he dialed a number and used for months. Captain Rodriguez, this is Kevin Williams, son of Colonel James. On the other end, the steady voice of a veteran who served under James for 8 years answered. Kevin, how are you, kid? I still can't believe we lost James. I'm fine, sir. I need a favor related to a legal situation. Do you still have contacts at the Department of Licensing and Regulation? Rodriguez hesitated only a second. Of course. What do you need? Kevin explained the situation at Arsenal Premium, focusing on irregularities, omitting the painful humiliation. Interesting, Rodriguez muttered. Your father taught me to always check establishment licenses, right? Military habit. Coincidentally, I've had concerns about Arsenal Premium for months. Inside the store, Patterson celebrated what he thought was an easy victory. "Did you see how the kid ran out?" He laughed, cleaning a collector's rifle. "These people need to learn there are appropriate places for everyone." Thompson nodded. "Exactly. If we let just anyone in, our select clientele will look elsewhere." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you find it strange he mentioned emancipation and specific license questions?" "Oh, please," Patterson dismissed. "These kids watch too much YouTube and think they know the law. He probably doesn't even know emancipation requires a federal judge." What Patterson didn't know was Kevin had gone through that process 3 months earlier. After James's death, his mother, Sarah, insisted on emancipation so Kevin could access military benefits and make legal decisions about his father's estate. Federal Judge Harrison, a Vietnam veteran and friend of Colonel Williams, processed it in record time after reviewing James's record and Kevin's academic achievements. "Rodriguez," Kevin continued on the phone, "could you check if Arsenal Premium complies with federal protocols, especially on discrimination in service and document verification?" "I can do better, kid. Your father saved my life twice. I'm calling my friend at the ATF. If there's any impropriety, we'll find it." Inside Arsenal Premium, Patterson bragged to customers about putting the kid in his place. "The problem today is these young people don't understand hierarchy," he declared, polishing a custom gold pistol. "Speaking of hierarchy," Morrison interjected maliciously, "the kid asked if you served, didn't he? What was your answer?" Patterson blushed. He tried enlisting 3 times, rejected for health reasons he never admitted publicly. "I served my country in other ways. Not every patriot takes up arms." Thompson laughed. "Sure, Rick, you serve by selling guns to those who know how to use them." The joke drew laughter, but Patterson felt subtle discomfort. There was something about Kevin's question, its apparent innocence carrying greater weight. Meanwhile, Kevin drove home in his second-hand Honda Civic, a gift from his mother. In the garage, he opened a metal box holding his father's belongings, a Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Cross. He found a letter from General Mitchell Roberts. "Colonel Williams demonstrated exceptional leadership under extreme pressure. His son Kevin, who shows similar maturity and principles, has my unconditional support." Kevin photographed the letter, sending it to Rodriguez with his emancipation papers and academic certificates. It wasn't arrogance, just preparation, as his father taught. "Always have your paperwork in order, son," James said. "The well-documented truth is the most powerful weapon." The phone rang. "Rodriguez, I just spoke with my ATF contact. She's visiting Arsenal Premium tomorrow. When she heard you're Colonel Williams's son, she was very interested." "Thanks, Captain, but I want to do this the right way. No special treatment." Rodriguez laughed. "Boy, you're just like your father. But sometimes the right way means using all legal resources. Your father made friends in important places." Kevin hung up, looking at his father's framed photo in military uniform, the same calm, determined expression Kevin wore in the store. In the kitchen, Sarah, still in her nurse's uniform after a 12-hour shift, asked, "How'd it go at the gun store?" "Educational," Kevin replied. Sarah stopped stirring, recognizing that tone, the calm before the storm. "Kevin, your father said the best revenge is to live well and do the right thing. Don't become bitter because of ignorant people." "I don't intend to, Mom. But I also won't let them treat other young people the way they treated me." Sarah nodded, seeing her son's inherited determination. Outside, a car with official plates checked addresses. At Arsenal Premium, Patterson counted money, unaware his cruel words had set events in motion that would change his life forever. As Kevin put away his father's medals, he reflected on justice versus revenge, one emotional and impulsive, the other calculated and inevitable. Thanks to his father's lessons and his mother's love, Kevin knew which path to choose. Tomorrow would be an interesting day at Arsenal Premium. Patterson would learn there are consequences for confusing dignity with weakness, respect with fear. The next morning, Patterson arrived at 8:00, donning his custom lab coat, checking the register, oblivious to the black sedan across the street. Federal Agent Lisa Chun, a 10-year ATF veteran, watched, a folder of documents beside her. This inspection was special. Colonel James Williams's name opened doors. At 9:15, Chun entered, the store bell announcing her. Patterson looked up with his business smile. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Chun showed her ID. "Agent Chun, ATF. Routine inspection to verify compliance with federal regulations." Patterson's smile vanished. "Inspection? We passed the last audit 2 years ago. Inspections can occur any time, Mr. Patterson. I need your sales records, licenses, customer service protocols." Morrison, there to buy ammunition, whispered nervously. "Rick, what's going on?" Patterson's hands trembled as he opened the license file. "Sure, Agent, everything's in order." Chun examined documents, making notes. "I received a report about possible discrimination in customer service. Do you have protocols for treating all customers equally?" "Discrimination?" Patterson forced a laugh. "Absolutely not. We treat all customers with respect." "Interesting." Chun pulled a recorder. "Then you won't mind if I play recordings from yesterday." Patterson's blood ran cold. Morrison stepped back, suddenly interested in the wall guns. Kevin's voice echoed. "Actually, I'm looking for information on carry permits," followed by Patterson's laughter. "Licenses, kid? You can't even drive yet. Go play outside before I call the police." Chun paused. "Is this your voice, Mr. Patterson?" Well, the kid looked suspicious." "Suspicious? How? Did he make threats? Display aggressive behavior?" Patterson swallowed hard. "Not exactly, but—" Chun played more, comments about people like you. Cruel jokes about welfare, thrift stores. Patterson sank into his chair. "Mr. Patterson," Chun continued, "the young man you humiliated is Kevin Williams, son of Colonel James Williams, killed in the line of duty 6 months ago. Kevin is legally emancipated and has a constitutional right to be treated with dignity." Morrison cursed under his breath. Patterson stammered, "Colonel Williams?" But the boy didn't say. "Why should he?" Chun interrupted. "Does a 15-year-old need to announce his deceased father's military record for basic courtesy?" Chun spread photos, James receiving medals, greeting generals. Colonel Williams served 23 years, 3 combat tours, classified missions. He died saving civilians in a humanitarian operation. Chun's stare cut like steel. "And you mocked his son because he looked suspicious." Thompson, therefore an order paled. Chun continued. Kevin recorded the interaction with a legal protection app after facing repeated discrimination since his father's death. He has the right to sue for discrimination based on age and appearance. Patterson tried a defense. "Agent Chun, it was a misunderstanding. If we'd known who he was." "Not who he was," Chun cut off. "A person's character doesn't change based on their parents' profession or bank account." Chun pulled more documents. "Kevin has an IQ of 142, a perfect GPA, acceptance to 3 universities with full scholarships. He's certified in first aid, saved 2 people as a volunteer lifeguard." Each fact slapped Patterson's face. The suspicious boy was more qualified than most of his clients. Furthermore, Chun continued, "Our investigation revealed this establishment charges different prices based on customers' appearance, violating federal trade regulations." Morrison tried to hide, but Chun noticed. "Mr. Morrison, attorney, you were present and encouraged the behavior." Morrison opened and closed his mouth like a fish. Chun closed her folder. "Arsenal Premium is under federal investigation. Licenses will be reviewed, with a high probability of temporary suspension." Patterson slumped. 15 years of building his business, crumbling over a few minutes of cruelty. "Agent Chun," he pleaded, "can't we work this out? I can compensate the boy." "Compensate?" Chun laughed coldly. "Kevin doesn't want your money. He wants justice. And justice is what he'll get." The store bell rang. Kevin walked in, wearing the same simple clothes, but with Chun beside him, his presence carried new weight. Patterson looked at Kevin, no longer seeing a suspicious kid, but the son of an American hero. "Kevin," Chun said respectfully, "do you need anything else for the report?" Kevin looked at Patterson. "No, Agent Chun. I think the message has been conveyed." Thompson, Morrison, and Patterson stood silent, realizing they'd underestimated Kevin and the consequences of their prejudices. Outside, another federal sedan arrived with more investigators. Arsenal Premium was about to learn that discriminating against the hero's son had far-reaching ramifications. 3 months later, Arsenal Premium closed permanently. Patterson lost his federal license, faced a tax audit revealing 5 years of irregularities. His mortgaged home and savings vanished in legal fees and fines. Morrison's law license was suspended for 6 months after the Bar Association learned of his role. His clients left, leaving him with smaller cases to rebuild his reputation. Thompson's government contracts were cancelled when his company's discriminatory hiring practices surfaced. His select practices became his nightmare. Kevin turned the experience into something bigger than revenge. With veterans and civil rights lawyers, he created the Colonel James Williams Foundation, combating discrimination against minority youth in commercial establishments. It offers free legal assistance, civil rights education, and mentoring with veterans. In 3 months, the foundation sued 12 establishments and reformed customer service policies at over 50 companies. Kevin was accepted into the military academy on a full scholarship, following his father's footsteps with a mission to ensure others didn't face his prejudice. At the foundation's opening ceremony, over 300 attended, including generals, veterans, and youth who'd faced discrimination. "My father taught me true strength isn't fighting back with anger, but turning injustice into change," Kevin told an emotional audience. Sarah, in the front row, watched with pride. Captain Rodriguez whispered, "James would be so proud." Kevin didn't just honor his father's memory, he multiplied it. Weeks later, Patterson applied at a sporting goods store. The manager, a young black man, recognized him. "Mr. Patterson? I read about Arsenal Premium. Unfortunately, we don't hire people with a history of documented discrimination." Patterson left, understanding his actions had built his own barriers. The humiliation he inflicted on Kevin returned, multiplied, with a lifelong lesson. Kevin learned what military handbooks don't teach: the greatest victory isn't destroying the enemy, but transforming the battlefield. He didn't just defend his dignity, he built a system to protect everyone's. 2 years later, Patterson watched Kevin graduate as a second lieutenant on TV, saluting generals, praised for academic merit. Patterson realized he'd not only misjudged Kevin but missed a chance to know someone extraordinary because his prejudices outweighed his humanity. Kevin's true revenge wasn't Patterson's destruction, but a legacy ensuring future generations wouldn't face the same disrespect. He turned 3 minutes of humiliation into decades of change. The lesson Kevin taught transcends race, age, class. When facing injustice, we can respond with bitterness or build a more just world. Kevin chose to build, honoring his father and redefining what it means to turn pain into purpose. If you've faced discrimination or seen unfair treatment, you know the best response isn't always obvious. Subscribe to the channel for more stories proving dignity, education, and determination are the strongest weapons against prejudice. True victory comes from lifting not just yourself, but society around you.